Hello everyone, welcome to CSC Core Concepts in the series of computer networks. In this video I am going to discuss about the Selective Repeat ARQ technique. In my earlier videos we have already discussed about two more ARQ techniques, that is the automatic repeat request techniques. One is the stop and wait stop and wait ARQ, and another one was the go back and ARQ. In those videos we have discussed about the drawbacks of those techniques, and to overcome those drawbacks we will come to selective reject ARQ. Now if you have gone through my earlier video on the go back and ARQ, there we had discussed that one sender or the source can send multiple frames to the destination. Now in this case what can happen is that any intermediate frame which is damaged, if it is rejected by the destination, then in that case the source will have to retransmit all the frames. So it was a disadvantage of the technique because so many retransmissions have to be done. So now in this technique it is mostly used for noisy channels and links where there are too many retransmission probabilities, and here the difference with the go back and ARQ is that instead of retransmitting all the frames, here it will retransmit only the frame which has been damaged, or the frame which has got a negative acknowledgement. So most efficient, it is more efficient that go back and ARQ because it will minimize the amount of retransmissions. So in this case, when you are saying that the receiver will not will accept the other frames, let us say for example the source has sent frames 1 to 5. Okay, now the third frame has been damaged. So in case of go back and ARQ, the third, fourth and the fifth, all three frames had to be retransmitted, right? But we are saying that in this technique it is not so. If only the third has to be retransmitted, then what about fourth and fifth? Fifth, where should it be kept? So in this case the receiver has to have a buffer in which it can keep the other frames, that is fourth and the fifth, and meanwhile the third frame is getting retransmitted, and when the third frame comes to it, it should put it in an appropriate place, right? So this is the logic. Now if the receiver requires a buffer, right, to store the frames which are coming post post rejected frame, right? Now what about the sender? Now sender is working in one sequence. It has already sent 5 frames. Now it is preparing itself to send the 6th, 7th, 8th frame, let's say. Meanwhile, it receives a negative acknowledgement from frame number 3. So what the sender has to do is that it has to again go back out of the sequence and then find out the third frame and retransmit it, right? So the sender, that is the transmitter, requires some logic to be able to handle a frame which is out of sequence, because it was working in one sequence and suddenly it got a negative acknowledgement for some frame which it has earlier transmitted. So it has to go back and again retransmit it. So the sender will set a timer. What happens here basically is that whenever the sender is transmitting the frames, it is setting a timer for each frame. So whenever the timer is over, and in that case, and in meanwhile the sender has not received any acknowledgement, then the sender understands that either the frame has been damaged or lost, right? So in that case the sender will send back the lost or the damaged frame when the timer is out. So sender needs to wait for the timer to expire before retransmission. But in case you are sending a negative acknowledgement, let's say destination is sending a N acknowledgement, that is a negative acknowledgement, then in that case the sender does not have to wait for the timer to get over. And suppose frame 3 got a negative acknowledgement, the timer is not yet over, that's fine. It does not have to wait for the timer to get over. When the moment it got negative acknowledgement, it will keep a track of the sequence number, go back, find out that sequence number, okay, the third frame, and it will retransmit it. Okay. So and meanwhile the receiver will do what? Whatever sequence number frames 4th, 5th has arrived, it is going to keep it in the buffer. So when the sender is getting an acknowledgement, it will retransmit only the lost frame. But whereas in case of go back in ARQ, there it had to send all the frames which it has sent post negative acknowledgement. So this is the beauty of this technique, and they have now every frame has a sequence number associated with it, and the acknowledgement and the n acknowledgement also keeps the track of the sequence number, right, that which frame has to be resent. So as the receiver is receiving multiple frames in different order, so the receiver should have the sorting capability. Okay, so this is very much required. Every frame is coming in from a different path, understood? So some may arrive early, some may arrive late, but the frames have to be kept in a sorted order. So this sorting technique should be there on the receiver's end, and in the sender's end it should have the searching capability, that it can search any random frame whenever it is receiving a negative acknowledgement. So here the sender's window size is 2 raised to the power m minus 1, where m is the number of bits. So with this we have already discussed. So let us say we are using a 3-bit sequence number. So when I am saying 3-bit sequence number, the range will be from 000 to 111, that is from 0 to 7. So the window size should always be smaller than the total number of bits or the sequence number, right? So what it has to do is that it will say 2 raised to the power m minus 1, that is m is 3, m minus 1 is 2. So 2 raised to the power 2, that is 4. So window size should be only 4, not more than that. This we have already discussed, right? So what if it understands, it does not know which frame it is to be sending and all, right? So let us say the window size is represented as WS on the sender side and as WR on the receiver side, and here the window size of the sender and receiver is same. So let's say that let us understand the steps of the data transmission. So let us understand this figure. So in this figure we can see that there is one sender and one receiver, and the sender has sent the frame number 0. This is the receiver's buffer and this is the sender's buffer. So sender is sending frame 0 and 1 after the other. Receiver received 0th frame, it has acknowledged it. Frame 1 has been sent, frame acknowledgement has been received for frame 1. So the sender's pointer is at first frame and it is preparing itself to send second and third. So it is sending the second frame, but the second frame got damaged or lost in transit, and meanwhile the receiver got the third frame. So it immediately understood that there is something wrong with the second frame. So it has kept it in the third position, not at the second position, and meanwhile it is sending a negative acknowledgement to the sender about the second frame. But what happens is that the sender is preparing itself to resend the other frames, because the window size is what? 4. So if the window size is 4, so the sender can send from 0 to 3, right? 0 to 3. So 0, 1, 2 and 3, understood? So if it is 0, 1, 2 and 3, so again the again the sequence number is starting from 0. So it was about to send the next 0th frame, but meanwhile it received a negative acknowledgement, so it had to go back to the second frame again and it had to resend the second frame, and this is what has happened. So the sender has sent initially frames first 0 then 1, so it has received an acknowledgement of 0th and 1th. Again the sender has sent frames second and third, but it has only received the third one. That means the second frame has been damaged. So the sender sends back frame 2 and this process will continue. Now you can see here, when the frame 2 arrives, it has been inserted at the second position. That means it has been arranged in a sorted manner. So I hope you understood this simple ARQ technique. It is very interesting, but of course it does require some logic for sorting as well as searching. Otherwise it is better than your go back and ARQ technique. So please go through these videos, and you can feel free to write me in the comment section, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe to CSE Core Concepts. Thank you.